everyone, and welcome to this edition of FTT Chats. I'm Lisa Moyle, Director of Strategy at VC Innovations, and today I'm delighted to be joined by Simon Jones. Simon is Chief Customer Officer with ClearBank. Hello, Simon.
Hey, Lisa. Great to be with you today. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, fantastic to have you. Simon, I wondered if we could start with you telling us a little bit about ClearBank for those in our audience, and I don't imagine there are many who haven't heard of you, and about your role there.
Great. Well, yes, ClearBank is a fairly new UK clearing bank providing its customers, its financial institution customers, access to all of the UK payment schemes available for consumers and for businesses. Clearing banks have been traditionally a fairly small group of large institutions, very well-known high street institutions that everybody would know very well, and that is consolidated over a number of the last couple of decades to a very small number of providers. And ClearBank was set up 4 or 5 years ago to provide a new option type clearing bank that is built on a brand new technology platform, enabling all of the new fintechs and other financial institutions that want to modernize their technology platforms to connect and link through APIs, through cloud-based technology into a new clearing bank, and therefore gain the efficiencies that would provide them. So we're an institutional bank providing payment and clearing services for financial institutions, across the UK. My role as Chief Customer Officer is to lead the client management, the product development, and the marketing function for ClearBank, to really make sure that we're constantly innovating with the market, constantly reviewing changes that are happening in the clearing systems in the UK, and making sure that we adapt our products and services to make them as efficient and as nimble and as agile for our clients as possible, and at a very reasonable price for them as well. So we are really a true platform to enable innovation in financial services, and that's what makes my role so exciting.
Thanks, Simon. And picking up on what you said about enabling innovation, we often hear and discuss how digital acceleration has shifted those customer expectations of their financial institutions and providers.
Yep.
Looking at the current situation, the pandemic, how has that impacted or accelerated that shift? And how have the events of the past 7-8 months really changed the way customers are interacting with financial institutions?
Yes, it's been a very dramatic shift during this year, and a lot of people have said that the digital development and digital adoption by consumers and businesses has really jumped by about 5 years. If we continue to keep the trajectory that we had before COVID, it probably would have taken another 5 years to get to the way that we're working now remotely, the way that we interact with our financial institutions via apps online, has dramatically shifted. And that's because COVID has resulted in us having to do that. If you want to open an account at a financial institution, you can't go to the branch office, you can't go to the Building Society office. You have to be able to do it online, either via an app or directly via the web. And that is just for the purpose of opening an account or moving investments around or obtaining a mortgage, for example. What has happened in our day-to-day lives is certainly at the beginning of COVID, we saw a massive move away from cash, a massive move away from checks. Check collections went down about 30% in April this year, for example. It's recovered a bit now, but it's still down significantly year on year. Cash usage has decreased significantly, but what has really spiked up is the point of sale using contactless payment technology has absolutely gone through the roof. And that's, I think, because a lot of the technology was in place for those things at that time, before COVID, but there wasn't necessarily a real reason to use it. Now, I think we all know if we do go to the supermarket, which we rarely go to now, we have to limit when we can go, then we'll use a contactless payment for when we check out at the till. I think that we are challenging ourselves to do more and more shopping online, having more and more stuff delivered to us, because that's the only way we're able to do it. And I think what you're going to see in the years to come, a lot of our customers have been rolling out new online payment technologies for online business, but they've not necessarily been seeing the traction that they originally thought they would see. But post-COVID, they started to bring more products to market. You'll see more checkout payment options available in your home shopping sites, etc. And I think you'll see consumers not just using contactless, but a bigger array of different payment options in the future.
Those were some really great examples, and they really speak to the kind of lasting legacy and impact of the pandemic going forward. And, I was thinking about, when people shifting online because they had no choice, but then looking at community banks and credit unions, because I know ClearBank obviously joined us recently as a partner for FinTech Talents Building Societies. And those are institutions that traditionally have relied a lot on face-to-face. Can you tell us a little bit about how ClearBank are working with community banks and credit unions and helping support them in meeting the needs and serving their customers, as well as furthering financial wellness?
Yeah, no, we'd love to. And it's been a really exciting development. The strategy that ClearBank had put in place to partner with particularly the credit union sector to help them significantly modernize and adapt to digital payment technology. And this was all well in place before COVID hit, for example. We partnered with a company called Incuto, who was building a software as a service platform to enable credit unions to transfer from their existing core banking system platforms onto a brand new cloud-based core banking platform that was directly connected to ClearBank. We've been very successful working together with Incuto of really payment enabling some of the biggest credit unions and most well-known credit unions in the UK to actually put them live on the platform during COVID, which is quite a feat in itself. And actually then roll out those digital payment instruments in a time where consumers are relying on credit unions for loans, for daily loans, etc., much more than they would ever have done before. Before, they would have had to go to a counter somewhere to go and pick up some cash. Now they can have it directly into their bank account via a faster payment, via an app, and in a very efficient way. And during these, very troubling times that we've been in, this has been an absolute lifeline for a number of, a lot of consumers out there in the market that these credit unions are supporting. And we've been absolutely privileged and honoured to be seeing some of the feedback that we've seen from some of those credit unions. We've now got up to 12 credit unions live on the platform, and are rolling out 2 or 3 a month, for example.
Yeah, that must be very exciting to see those developments, particularly for those institutions which are so vital, as you outlined, to their community. And thinking about that unique offering that they have to customers, do you think that will continue to appeal to future generations of customers, or will we see them gravitate more towards digital-first challenger banks? And then maybe you can give us a little bit of your view about what the banking landscape will look like in 5 to 10 years' time.
Well, that's quite a big part of the questions there, but no problem. I see that the community bank sector particularly could learn a lot from what the credit union sector has done, invest in modernizing their technology, and really providing those digital first apps, those digital first onboarding and transaction experiences for their customers. And I think you'll find in that case that younger consumers will want to potentially adopt those types of technologies. Community banks have a deep entrenchment in home communities where you may have been brought up, for example, and there's a deep connection to people to those different communities. And if they can provide a similar platform to what a fintech can provide, that may be somewhere in the cloud, that doesn't really have a routing in a particular community somewhere else, somewhere particularly in the UK, then I think younger consumers will want to adopt those types of technology. They may have had a building society account from a savings that grandparents have given them, as they were a child, for example. If they could start to then use that with technology that they're very familiar with from a challenger bank, then I think they will start to use that more. They will already have that connection and will want to continue that connection into the rest of their career and the rest of their life.
Yeah, thanks for that.
So I think from a competition perspective, I think it's very healthy for competition, because you'll see challenger banks, catering to their niche, catering to the digital experience that younger consumers want immediately. But I think you'll start to see those consumers also connecting to past experiences, past communities, and therefore they won't just use a challenger bank. They may well use other trusted brands that they're very familiar with, that they've grown up with, for example, as long as those brands can provide you the same type of digital service. I see a lot of the building societies having moved to much more online onboarding, for example, during COVID, and it's only a natural extension to go to the app, to go to the transaction initiation, savings initiation, the mortgage application process going forward. And I think you'll see a lot more investment in that area, going forward. Or I'm afraid if you aren't able to do that, you're going to unfortunately lose your customer base over time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. I mean, if anything, this pandemic has made clear that that kind of digital transformation isn't an option; it's a must.
Yeah.
And if I could just draw upon your skills to look into the future a little bit, how do you think that will evolve over the next 5 to 10 years? I know it's not a small ask.
So I think what you're seeing in financial services is the notion of a large bank financial institution being your aggregator for all of your financial services is something that I don't see happening in the future. I see specialist platforms developing really good experiences, really good service, really good digital tools for very specific purposes that you'll use a financial service during your life, whether that be a mortgage, whether that be an ISA, whether that be savings, for a deposit for a house, for example. What you'll see is consumers using more and more of these different types of apps and providers, but then wanting to actually aggregate them in a trusted source. So what you're actually seeing is a disaggregation from the old large bank model that provided you with a service for all of the different financial instruments that you might need, to going forward of more individual apps, but the consumer wanting to aggregate that through open banking, for example, through a trusted what we will call super apps in the future going forward. And I think that you're going to see a lot of evolution around that in the next 2 or 3 years. The people that can make that experience really good, that bring together the best providers on a digital platform for the individual services that you're going to use. And I see there's a big opportunity for the consumer banks, for the community banks and consumer brands to be able to provide that sort of aggregation.
Oh, interesting. So that you think they could operate as the super aggregators?
Potentially, in their communities, for example, bringing local services together, bringing local financial products together, could well be, something that those community platforms can bring together.
Oh, that's really interesting. I hadn't heard it put that way before, and I hope the community banks listening now will take that prediction on board.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Simon.
So hopefully that gives you some insight as to how it will evolve. We're going to see dramatic technology changes. We're going to see very much open banking being used to benefit consumers more, I think, in the next couple of years. And I think that's how you're going to see things evolving.
Right. Well, thank you so much for that, Simon. That was really interesting. Thank you for sharing that insight. Thank you for sharing your predictions as well. And thank you for taking the time to join us today.
Thank you very much for having me on, Lisa. Thank you.